What's the headline right now?
Good morning, Tom. I mean, you've been here all night long with Chief Forecaster David Tillman. You know that steadily increasing, has been steadily strengthening. Now those winds up to 80 miles per hour. It's not moving very quickly, but don't worry, there's a trough waiting for it later on this morning that's eventually going to help scoop this system out, so there is no stalling for Beryl. At this hour, we're starting off with a quad camera. I want you to see the shake in the cameras down along the coastline. That's where we've been sampling winds gusting anywhere between 50 to 70, 75 miles per hour. The National Weather Service sending out several alerts, letting us know that several locations, observation sites have been recording these very strong winds. As right now, the eye wall still hasn't made it onshore. It's still offshore, but some of those strongest winds are with some of these rain bands that have been steadily pushing onshore. Unfortunately, we've already got a situation where we've got a flash flood warning in effect for parts of Matagorda County, and we knew this was going to happen because we knew that the heaviest of that rain would be focused around that center of circulation, and those heavy rain bands have been steadily pumping in the heavy rain along with those strong onshore winds. And we've got a taste of some of these heavy rains yesterday and even on Saturday, so grounds are already saturated. So a couple of alerts that you can see right now with 13 alert radar. We've got a tornado watch, as you know, with tropical cyclones. We've got a very warm, humid air mass, and we've got also some spinning, some rotation with some of these feeder bands that are moving onshore. So a tornado watch is in effect from now through 10 o'clock this morning. And it's some of these heavier rain bands that are down still along the Gulf waters that are going to be rotating in our direction throughout the early morning hours. So myself, along with meteorologist Kevin Roth, will be monitoring not just display the reflectivity, the precipitation, but also what are the Doppler winds? What are the winds doing with some of these thunderstorms? That flash flood warning that I just mentioned, that is going to be through 4:45 this morning, and there is a possibility of this becoming extending that time depending on how much of this rain starts to recede. But they have just been inundated with this heavy rain from Bay City out toward Lake Jackson. Bay City, Clute, Freeport, Lake Jackson are among the few cities that the National Weather Service has mentioned. But Brazoria and Matagorda County under a flash flood warning, where you're seeing this green polygon, so along 36. You basically, when these flash flood warnings are issued, that means stay put, hunker down. That has been the messaging that we have been letting you know all weekend long, that once this rain event gets going, you are not going to want to go anywhere this morning. By this afternoon, we'll slowly start to see these rains shifting up to the north, and that's then when you can assess the situation, when you can step outside and determine whether or not those streets are passable, because there are going to be many of you, especially along the coastline, where those roads will be taking on water and you may not be able to move or get out of the house. You're going to have to stay put through most of today. So here's where the 6-hour rainfall totals are placing us. Again, this is radar indicated, but I can tell you from just the National Weather Service posting that, issuing that flash flood warning, they're also getting the same type of reports. Anywhere between 4 to 6 inches of rain have fallen. And with these feeder bands, these are prolific rainmakers. We know that these feeder bands are capable in this very warm and humid atmosphere to produce a quick 1, 2, 3 inches per hour. And when you get to those 2 to 3 inch rainfall rates per hour, that is when it puts too much pressure. It puts so much inundation in the drainage down in these areas that we start to see impassable roads. So flash flood warnings are posted because flash flooding is occurring in these areas, and there are roads, no doubt, that are impassable due to those high water levels. Here's a look at the radar. We go back to the reflectivity map. You can see generally just some light rain falling around Missouri City. Down closer to the coastline is where we've got another one of these hefty feeder bands producing some strong winds. I've been sampling a lot of the winds down along the coastline, where again, those sustained winds, if they're not gusting 60 or 70 miles per hour, they're still the sustained winds of 20 to 40 miles per hour, and you do not want to be out driving in these type of conditions. So our messaging this morning is just stay put, stay where you are, stay safe. That light rain, you can see that shield now is is beginning to push northward, will be impacting those of you in spring, if not already, with some light rain. It's going to be moving northward up toward Liberty as well as Montgomery County. And then later on this morning, that shield of rain will eventually be pushing into Cold Spring, up toward the Livingston area, Piney Woods, eventually getting into Austin County, out toward Navasota. So let me give you the breakdown. As of the 2 a.m. advisory, we know that the winds right now are at 80 miles per hour. The winds are gusting close to 85 miles per hour, and this storm system is not too far off from making landfall there along the coastline of Matagorda County. And you can see as a Category 1 hurricane, I know there was talk that maybe this storm system would even strengthen to a Cat 2, but regardless at this point of its strength, we know what it's going to do. It's going to bring some heavy rain, some strong winds, the storm surge, along with the possibility of tornadoes, the 4 tropical hazards when talking about a landfalling hurricane, a landfalling tropical cyclone. So as you can see, Hurricane Beryl is moving toward the north-northwest at about 10 miles per hour. So what I've done is I've highlighted the cone of uncertainty here. So from Palacios, those of you around Blessing, you're on the western fringes of that cone. If you talk about where the center of that storm is going to make landfall, somewhere between Palacios and Freeport is where we anticipate that center to make landfall. So we're within that next couple of hours as that system continues to progress northward. And then once it pushes inland, mid to late morning, it's going to be moving between Belleville and maybe those of you around the Lake Houston area. So those of you that are going to be on the right side, the east side of that storm, be prepared. That center of circulation, the hurricane force winds are only about 40 miles outside of that center. So you're going to be feeling some hurricane force winds. That system is going to continue to weaken as it pushes inland. By this evening, we should be in the clear for the most part. Tropical storm force winds still a possibility tonight at 7 o'clock, but notice the winds go down from the 80 mile per hour winds as it approaches landfall down to 45 mile per hour winds. A huge difference. There's still going to be some feeder bands, but the widespread rains are going to be coming to an end once the sun goes down. And this system is not done yet. Notice this is still a tropical depression by the middle of the week as it creates havoc across the Central Plains and then eventually making its way into the Midwest. So Beryl is going to be far-reaching, but we are going to be the first stop here across the U.S. We are anticipating that center of circulation crossing Matagorda sometime within the next couple of hours, and then you can see the center of circulation continue to track toward the north and northwest, potentially making its way between Wharton, Fort Bend County. Those of you in Austin County, you may get that clear eye. You may get that calm before the storm here. The center of circulation will continue to track toward the north, and then eventually you can see the heavy rain that's sitting down along the coastline. It's moving toward College Station. Those of you on the north side of town, late this morning into the early afternoon hours, be prepared for some of those strongest winds moving in your direction. So right now, you might just be getting a sprinkle or two, but later on this afternoon is when we anticipate some of the heaviest rain moving into our northern counties. And then you can see as future track continues to play out, the conditions are going to be improving 7, 8, 9 o'clock this evening, but there still could be some activity down along the coast, but there will be an opportunity there for those roads to eventually dry out, for those rains, that heavy rain to recede. Along with the tornado watch that's in effect until 10 o'clock this morning, we also have a flood watch through Tuesday morning. Again, that's going to give time for the heaviest of that rain to finally recede, and hopefully by tomorrow morning, by Tuesday morning, those of you that have to get back on the roads, you have to get back out there to work or even to school, to summer school, you're going to be able to do that. But again, those rainfall totals are all going to depend on where exactly that center circulation lands and also where those heaviest feeder bands. So want to show you, kind of time this out. By 5 o'clock this morning, notice where we've got most of the center of that heavy rain. We've already picked up close to 5 inches of rain, right? So in addition to what we've already seen this morning. Over the past 6 hours, you can count on another maybe 3, even 5 inches moving in as those feeder bands continue to push inland. And then we eventually get into that 5 to 6, maybe even 7-inch range along I-10 as we continue between 7, 8 o'clock this morning. As we go through the afternoon, that's as those feeder bands continue to extend northward. Then you're getting in on the mix. Huntsville over 6 inches, close to 8 inches in Conroe, around noontime for today. And then as we go further, not much accumulation once we get closer to 5, 6, 7 o'clock as the heaviest of the rain starts to shift northward. The strongest winds, let me show you where wind speeds are. These are wind speeds, sustained winds that are happening right now. So we are getting the influx. We're starting to feel those winds courtesy of Beryl, but the strongest of those winds focused down across Matagorda, Brazoria County. We're seeing sustained winds close to 50 miles per hour in Palacios, 33 in Bay City. Meanwhile, Houston, further inland, we're in that 20 to 25 mile per hour range. Here's a look at gusts. Occasionally, we get those gusts. Right now, Palacios reporting that site close to 70 mile per hour gusts. These are the type of conditions where you want to make sure you stay put, you stay indoors, you hunker down. That center of circulation right now, based on this computer model, is moving toward the north and northwest. You can see it arriving across the Fort Bend County area, but notice how many hours these winds will be sustained, if not gusting, over the course of the morning. We could be going through a period between 6 to 9 hours where not only are you dealing with heavy rain, but also some very strong winds. We're talking wind gusts of close to 65, 70 miles per hour in Katy. Fast forward to noontime, those winds begin to lower. We're starting to see those winds taper off, still 25 to 30 mile per hour gusts, but notice where we're seeing some of the stronger winds, especially east of where the center of circulation is. We're talking 60, maybe 65 mile per hour gusts around Cleveland, Livingston. Those are a strong tropical storm wind gust there, even on the verge of a hurricane type gust. 52 mile per hour gusts around Huntsville, 40 in Conroe. And then once we get closer to 3, 4 o'clock, we're really starting to see those winds taper off late this afternoon into the evening. So I know it's a lot to ingest, but just know that the radar, the wind, all of that right now is just getting started. Conditions will continue to deteriorate as a center of circulation makes landfall. Today we've got an ABC 13 weather alert day. Obviously, some very high impact weather happening across southeast Texas. 100% chance we'll see some showers and thunderstorms. Tomorrow, still on weather watch for the potential of the potential for some tropical rain bands moving through the area, and then we can slowly anticipate that the conditions will improve later on this week. Tom.
Alita, one thing you mentioned is that it's only moving at about 10 miles per hour right now, but once it makes landfall, you expect it to pick up speed and move on out.
Yes, that's correct. So as it continues to drift to the north, it's actually going to meet up with a trough moving across the state, and that is going to really help accelerate this storm system later on tonight. And although we're going to be going through 6 to 9 hours of these whipping winds and torrential rains, it doesn't feel like it's going fast enough. But I assure you, unlike previous storms, unlike Harvey and the Imeldas, we are not going to see a system that's going to stall out. It's just going to seem like it's taking forever, right, before this storm system moves out of here, but it will be out of here by later on this evening.